everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, today we're going to be building up a really exciting kit, one that probably the most iconic World War I aircraft. Even people who don't know World War I aircraft see this one and know what this one is. And today we're going to be building up the 1/32nd scale Meng Fokker DR1 triplane. Now, earlier in the week we did a review video showing you the parts inside this kit. And I asked you guys, which one do you think we should build up? Should we build up as the Red Baron or one of the other variations inside there? And there was a few people who wanted the other variations, kind of change it up, but the vast majority of people wanted us to build the Red Baron airplane. And as you could see from the couple of seconds at the very beginning of this video, that's one we did. I had a great time building this kit. The fit is really good on it, and we'll talk about all that stuff at the end of the video. Do want to take a couple of quick seconds, though, and tell you that if you do enjoy these videos, please take a couple of seconds and just go down there and hit the subscribe button, and then also ring the little bell icon, and that will notify you every time a new video comes out, because we always have new stuff coming out on that. So yeah, it's a great kit. We have them here in our store as well as our online store, andyshhq.com, if you're interested in getting one. And I would definitely recommend this. So, let's get started. Okay, we're ready to start assembly on the kit. And of course, we're going to first start off with the cockpit. And we need to get all of these parts built and painted beforehand because they're going to get sealed up inside the fuselage, obviously. So we want to have all that detailing done beforehand. Now we have our floor here, which is a wood color. The two side panels will fit in here, and they are a gloss black, as well as the stick, the foot pedals, and this other piece down in here. These two components are going to get painted a silver color. And then when it comes to the chair, I have to look a little bit further into it before I paint this, because the instructions call out a wood color with a leather seat. And based on what I've seen, it looks like it's a metal chair. So I want to find out a little bit more about that before I go ahead and paint that. But I think it might be just like a steel chair with a leather pad inside of it. So we'll research that before we paint it. And then of course we have our photo etch seat belts here, which are going to get painted like a canvas color with like metal buckles, things like that on it. Now, when it comes to the actual side of, side of the fuselage, you're going to notice inside here that we have this triangle shape. And that is because on this airplane, that portion of the real airplane was made out of plywood, and all of this was a canvas that goes over the side of the airplane. So when we paint the inside, we're going to paint this a plywood color, and then this portion and this portion down here are going to get painted like a linen color. So it's a canvas color, and based on what I've seen, it's kind of like an off-white. So we're gonna paint that off-white and then that plywood. Now, as you can see, there are actually a couple big pushpin marks on it. But after doing a little research, after we get all these pieces sanded and cut up, that when you go to put that on, you'll notice that it covers all of them up. So we don't have to worry about clearing off all those pushpin marks. That is going to make life a whole lot easier. Okay, so I've shown you these parts right now. Let's get to painting all of these, and then we will show you how it all fits together. Okay, we have most of the cockpit painted and put into little sub-assemblies here. And first of all, I changed my mind. The instructions call out for these portions of the rails inside to be a black color, but all the pictures I've seen of like museum pictures and things, they always show this kind of pale green. And I use this by mixing up a little NATO green with just a little bit of white in it to dull it down, give it this pea green color. And then of course after we did that, we put a little bit of a wash on it to highlight some of the little parts. We've got our other little piece here, which I'm actually not quite sure what this is, but we painted it a metal color and then washed it with like a little oily grime, and then attached the lines here as well as the foot pedals and then the little instrument gauge down there. We've got our floor here, and it's still drying. I used oil paints on this, painting it a brown, and I went a little darker on this portion of it than I did the rest of it because I wanted it to look like a dirty area, because that's where you guys' feet would be all the time. And then we also have our seat, which came with photo etch seat belts. And I did put a little bit of a wash over everything, kind of dirtied everything up a little bit. There is another instrument that is going to get put into the floor. And then I'll show you on the side here. So after investigating it, it was a linen color and then the brown color, which is a brown triangle of plywood that they would attach to the frame while they were assembling the airplane. So that's why we have like the linen color plywood. And I created that, and I'll show you right here in this little video portion, where we just painted it up with a red-brown and then went over it with our some oil paint, some lighter colors of yellows and browns, and kind of streaked it to come up with the plywood effect, as you see right here. So now with that done, we can actually go ahead and start assembling all of these pieces, and I'm going to show you that right now. Here is the cockpit, all done up. And you can see by the size of my hand, it is really tiny, even in 30-second scale. And now we can put it inside the fuselage. Okay, to line the cockpit up, there's this really large pin that lines up with these holes. Just like this. Snaps into place there. No, actually, the front pin popped into place as well there. It lined up so perfectly. So with that side done up, we can go ahead and get both sides to click just like that. And then just start working all the way around to get it all to line up and fit inside there. So we'll go ahead now and glue all of this stuff. And oh, one other quick thing. We did go ahead and drill out 2 holes on either side of the fuselage, and you want to definitely do that before you actually glue the 2 halves together, or you'll never be able to get at it in there. We've got the fuselage together now, and I've spent probably about a half an hour going back over it with different grades of sandpaper, all the way up to 800 to get rid of the seam down the middle, as you can see here. And still got just a touch more. I sprayed it with some gray paint, work as kind of like a primer, just to see if we had any flaws. And I see just a little tiny thing right there, but we're going to go back over and sand that one more time to get rid of that. Once we get that sanded down, we can go ahead and attach the tail, just as you see it like this. And this is the rest of the tail right here, and that'll get glued right into place. And we also have to glue in the firewall here, which will get snapped right in. One thing I'm noticing on this kit, this plastic is very, very soft, so you've got to be very careful when you're sanding that you don't overdo it, because it is so soft. It's easy to sand, but a little bit too easy sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up getting this thing sanded out a little bit more, and then we will go ahead and attach the rudder and the rest of the tail, as well as the firewall, with some glue, and then I will show you how we start working on the main center wing, which just even dry fitting it, I'll kind of show you how this pops right in. Yeah, just kind of drops right into place just like that. I've got that seam taken care of right now. Here, back here, we went and resprayed it with a little gray paint just to verify that we did. Now we can go ahead and start putting the struts on the wings, and they're going to be simple enough to do. Making sure they point forward just like that with a little bit of glue. And then this will be able to just fit right on top of there, like we showed you a bit ago. And then we will come up from underneath here and attach this lower wing just like that. And then of course there's a strut that goes in between each one of those as well. So let's put all of that together right now. Before I start on that, one little complaint I have is the lack of detail in the instructions. For example, right here, we've got this part A59, and it is a very fine little part in real life, and when you look at this thing right here, it's really vague how it's actually going to go into place because it's a small piece of paper and the thing is kind of chunky the way they drew it. So I wish they would have done a little bit more like wing nut. You got some little bit better instructions inside there. They're easy to follow, but sometimes it's hard to find out what that part actually looks like there. Before we start assembly, one quick thing I want to point out to you guys. This is, once you put the bottom wing on, this plate right here will snap into place. If you do not go ahead and file down these push pin marks, there's a little bit of an edge sticking out on them. It won't allow the thing to mate up as tight as it does right like that. In fact, I gotta even take off maybe a tiny bit more on that, but it just sticks out. It leaves kind of a big gap there. So make sure you take down those push pin marks before you glue it together. I went ahead and bent up the shroud that covers up the machine gun because they do give you two different types. You've got the plastic type like this, or the one that we're ending up building up, which you can see we've gone ahead and put the little photo etch front of the shroud as well as the sight on there. And then just using a piece off of the A sprue, we just went and wrapped our piece of photo etch around there. Now I did prime this first too to get the paint to stick better later on, and we just formed it. It's actually very simple to form this. It works really well. Slide that off, and then we will be able to go and carefully, I'm going to do it off camera because it's a lot easier without the camera in the way. Just slide the shroud right into place, and using a little bit of super glue, lock it down in there. And here's what the two machine guns look like glued together. Now we'll just put some paint on them. Now we're going to start building up the landing gear wing. Okay, we sanded out that front seam there. Now we can go ahead and attach the braces, which are a little easier said than done, I think. Just like that. And like that. And then once we get that done, we can go ahead and attach it just inside. Get both sides done, I should say. We'll be able to go ahead and just do that. Now I'm going to leave the wheels off for now because we're going to paint them separately, as well as we are supposed to start working on the top wing. And we're going to work on the top wing, but we're not going to glue it in place. We will go ahead and glue on these struts right here, which actually are a really nice tight fit. Look at that, just the way it slides right into place there with a little bit of glue. So we'll get both of those glued in, as well as the landing gear wing, and leaving off the wheels. And then we're going to work on the upper wing separately, which I'll show you, and then we're going to paint it in decal separately. I think it's just going to be a lot easier to work around and get all the little accessories on this portion without having that wing in the way. And here's the wing that I was talking about all assembled. And I'm going to go ahead and paint that up now with just using Tamiya's X7, or actually XF7. We're going to do it flat and then gloss coat it. I think it'll be easier to work with the flat paint. The little rigging on the bottom of the landing gear wing, and really ultra fine. And I apologize, I don't know the size of this wire right here. It was in a tube that didn't have markings on it, but we've got one in place in there. And what I've done is I've drilled out the top hole a little bit further in so we can slide it in here and then slide into the little point that it needs to be. Now I'm not gonna be able to do this on camera because I need that camera out of the way, but get you an idea of what we're talking about, and just a touch of super glue. Now I've got enough of the wire too that we're gonna do the two top ones as well, but after we get the wing in place. We've also cut some really small little pieces of that same wire to create the control lines, which if you can see underneath here, we've already created the ones underneath. So we just have to put the two on top there, just like there, and right into that other little hole. Now with the bracing wires on the bottom all dry, we want to attach these top bracing wires. We want to do this before the upper wing gets put on. I think it's just going to be a lot easier to put in there. And then we'll put a touch of super glue up inside there, and actually it mates right into, looking at the pictures, right at this brace. So we've got two pieces of cross wire cut, and we'll glue the other one in place right now. I'm going to show you how the rotary engine goes together here. It's actually a very, very simple process, only a couple of pieces. It's just a matter of lining up the two sides. Each one of these cylinder heads is molded separately, and because it's a different color, we're going to paint them separately. So we'll glue these two portions together, followed up by this. Actually, before we do that, better not forget the propeller shaft. Glue that in, followed by this piece right here, which will slide right on there, as you can see. And then after we put the cylinder heads on, that is pretty much the entire engine. So obviously we're going to paint all these parts separately, so it's going to be a lot easier that way. But just trying to give you an idea how the whole thing goes together. Gone ahead and painted the engine up. We did the kind of a copper or brass color for the little pipes coming out, and the engine itself we did in a sparkling silver. So it's a gloss paint, so it's going to take this black panel wash very, very well. Now, the engine is not attached. I've just pushed it into place here as a holder while we put our Tamiya black panel liner on it. And we'll put a couple of coats on. We want it to build up nicely. And since we're talking about the engine right now, I've got a question for you guys. I was looking up real photos of the Lerone engine, is what they said it was on it. And the pictures I've seen, it looks like this engine is in backwards. And what I mean by that is all these brass, copper colored pipes look like they're on the front of the vehicle. It almost like the engine should be flipped around. Now, I looked and looked and looked on internet pictures of the real Fokker ones, but I couldn't really tell based on what it was. But what do you guys think? Is this engine in backwards? I followed the instructions just like Meng called it out, and that's the way it's gonna, in fact, I'll pull this out and show you. So you've got that fitting in back there that's only gonna let it go in one way. So is this engine backwards? Is there a mistake in the instructions, or is it the way the Fokker DR1 was? Let me know down in the comments down below. I'm going to put some paint on this airplane, so we have to obviously go ahead and mask off the whole cockpit. Now, I've gone ahead and I've painted the upper wing, kind of a test. And what we've done here is we sprayed it with just Tamiya's XF7, the flat coat, or flat red, and went on there, put a couple of coats on there. After we did that, I mixed up kind of an orangish red color and highlighted the panels in between each one to kind of give it a little bit of a fading. It's a little bit more noticeable in person. Then we gloss coated it and then put our decals into place there. Put a couple of coats of Mark Fit on there and burnish those decals down. So we've got them nice and smooth on there. And that's basically what we're going to do with the rest of this airplane. So let's go ahead and put our coats of red paint on that after we mask off the cockpit. And now I'm going to put a couple of light coats of TS13 clear on. I like using the clear over the flat paints because the flat paints do a really nice job putting down a real even coat. the decals dry, this is a perfect opportunity to seat the twin machine guns into place. And we've got to walk them around all these little pieces in here and get it all to slide somehow in here. But there are 3 definite holes that we need to line up. So I will get the camera out of my way and get those to fit in there right now. And a little Tamiya brown panel liner just on these wooden areas to give it the streaking effect of making it look like a piece of wood. Now that we have all the accessories on, we're going to let the decals dry overnight, make sure they're completely dry. And actually, before I go home, I'll probably put one more coat of Mark Fit on just to make sure they're wrapped around. We'll put one quick coat of and then we'll put one coat of gloss coat on all that to seal those decals in, and then we can go ahead and glue the top wing into place. Now I am going to put the 2 control lines that come up from inside there too, and that we're going to use an elastic easy line type thread, but we're not going to put that in until the actual top wing goes into place. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of weathering to break up just the solid red color that we've got going on. So as you can see here, I'm putting a little bit of clean enamel thinner on. We want the surface to be wet so the black panel liner from Tamiya flows a little bit better. It won't blob up on you, and you can get a nice even streak going down. Now once we get the thinner on, we put the black panel liner on it, and then we are going to go over it with a brush that is dipped in clean thinner and then mostly dried out. So it's not a completely dry brush, but it does have a little bit of thinner on it just to take off some of the excess black here. And then once that is done, we'll take our cotton swab and go down and just remove any of the excess, anything that accumulates at the bottom of the wing. And then of course once this dries, it'll dry kind of a flat, so it'll give us kind of a nice highlight effect for that and give it a little bit of dirt and grime on it. And here we are, guys. Here is our completed model. So we went over the entire model as you saw with the streaking just to give it a little bit of highlight on some of the panels. I didn't want to over dirty it too much. And then of course around where the wheels are and the lower wing for the where the wheels are, we put a little bit of a dust effect on, very minor, just to make it pop a little bit. I did want to try to keep it a little bit more realistically weathered and not go too overboard on it. I know they look cool sometimes that way, but I really liked the red, and if we dirtied it up too much, I thought it would kind of like really just take away from it basically. So let's talk about the kit. The fit was good on this kit, because I know there's some people talking about, oh, this is not, not as good wingnut wing kit, and I had no problem at all with the fit. I do have to admit the instructions are a little bit vague in some areas, only because the pictures are kind of small. Nothing that you definitely can't work through. It's just some of the little minor parts, trying to figure out where they actually fit. This can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So they're not as good as like the normal wingnut wing ones are. The decals were fine. Like I said, the fit was good on it. It wasn't a ton of parts in this kit, so it's definitely someone who hasn't had a lot of experience modeling can certainly work their way through. Now I did go ahead and rig, as you can see there, with the different wires on going forth. Plus we also did put the rigging lines coming up, or the control lines going up inside there as well as all the little tiny lines up on top of the wing. And I know it's hard to see, but sometimes you can see them underneath the 3 different lines on each side of the airplane that control the tail and the rudder. So all of that is in there. So if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps out the channel. Also hit the little bell icon right next to it, and that'll turn on notifications, and that way anytime a new video comes out, you'll be notified that there is one out, and you'll be able to watch it right away. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.